This little segment here is about a very interesting fellow that I met in our second term. My concept was this, that I was going to sow the seed, and then where there was some sign of the seed growing and plants coming up, I would focus my time on that place of teaching and witnessing more and trying to help those plants that were trying to come up to become full grown and so on, and not just keep scattering. Seed sowing was good for the initial part, and some good things came out of that, but I felt like we needed to concentrate on the follow-up. We did run into some people that showed some interest, and some of them were out on the other road back toward Bangkok, the old way to Bac Nam. But one of them was about, I didn't know what it was, I just saw the man's name. It was Ajahn Khan, and he had an address there out in this other area. Well, I think, Julian went with me sometimes, but I think I went by myself that day. Well, I wound up out at this temple, Buddhist temple out there on the side of a klong. And when I went in and started inquiring and showing him the name and all, well, Ajahn Khan came out to speak to me, and he was the tallest Buddhist monk I've ever seen. We were looking eye to eye, but he seemed happy to see me, and he said, "I've got quite a lot of questions about Buddhism and Christianity." And I said, "Well, good. I'll be glad to talk to you." So he asked me to sit down there, and we sat down just a little ways apart, and this little tiny, short, elderly lady with her white robe, one of the, what do they call, machi, I think, came out with a couple glasses of tea. And of course, she bowed to me, and she got down on her knees to him and gave us the tea, and he said, "I want you to meet my mother." Okay. That was an honor, and but anyhow, we got to talking, and somehow we kind of focused on Wat Sotan, our big temple there in town, and we agreed on all the superstitious stuff that was going on there. He came to our house. He and his mother came to the house one day, and I can't remember. This had to have been before we came home, because Mom was still up in the bed. But we had a nice visit, and friendly visit, and they went on their way. Early on, maybe about the second time I visited him, he said, "Listen," he said, "we're putting in a pump and water pipes here from the canal to pump water into the temple for our use," and said, "when all that's ready, we're going to have a dedication, and I want you to come out and speak." Well, sure, I don't mind that. Free meal, too. And, but I didn't hear any more about it for a while. Of course, I was going to Bang Pino, on Saturday nights, Well, I get home from Bang Pino this Saturday night, late as usual, after we have our grits and bacon and eggs and toast. You remember I used to toot the horn as we came into town and took Julian home, and then I came back and Mom had breakfast ready. I don't know if you kids, did you get to stay up that late? I don't remember. Okay, well, anyhow, that's another good memory. But that night she said, "Well, I guess you're going out to Ajahn Khan's temple tomorrow." And I said, "Well, I don't know. I was tired, had a busy week and late night, and I was supposed to preach at the church in the morning." And I said, I told him I would come if I could, but I said, "I don't know if I could make it." She said, "You got to go, because the truck, with the big bell thing on it, announcing it all over town, the one they use for the movies and fights and stuff." that I was going to be there. And, well, I said, okay, I can't let my buddy down, you know. So I went, and we had a meal sitting on the floor in the, not in the room where all the Buddha images were, but in another big sala-like place. And but he told me when I got there, he said the program's been changed a little bit. He said instead of you just speaking, he said we're going to have a panel discussion on what is true Buddhism. I thought, well, that's pretty neat, having the Farang help you, talk to you about true Buddhism, you know. Well, we had two military chaplains, you know, Buddhist chaplains. One was an Air Force guy and one was a Navy. We had a young Buddhist monk who had just finished, I guess we'd say, Buddhist seminary. And this Farang, this big, tall, white Farang. Well, the host, he was kind of a Bob Hope type. He had lots of jokes and fun stuff and kept everybody feeling good, laughing, you know. And, I mean, he did a good job of emceeing. And he kind of, well, he something like, we don't know what this big, tall, white guy's doing out here, but here he is. And Ajahn Khan's asking to be on the panel. So I just, you know, having a good time with it. And so every question they asked me, there weren't too many, because we all, three of us had to answer questions along, but it was all about comparing Christianity and Buddhism. And the question I remember the most was, you know, he said, the Thai people, he said, you Christians talk about, you know, this Jesus is the only Savior, the only way, but said, to us, religion is kind of like buying a suit of clothes. He said, if you need a suit, you go to the tailor. You have, he said, in the market, you'll have 3 or 4 tailor shops, and so you choose, you know, which one you want. And he said, it's not that one's better than the other or anything like that. It's just your choice. And he said, why can't religion be like that? Well, of course, I'm thinking and praying, you know, how to answer. And I said, well, to me, the best comparison is like, it's true of suits or food or all kind of things you could choose. But I said, if you go to the doctor and he tells you you've got this illness and there's only one kind of pill that will help you get well, I said, you don't go choose another kind of pills, do you? And he said, no, not really. So that's the best I could think of at the time. And I said, well, the Bible teaches us that Jesus is the only way, and that he came because we couldn't save ourselves. I mean, I didn't preach a sermon, but I went into some detail. And so that was my answer. And I didn't get any feedback off of it, but one man did invite me to his house afterwards. I think maybe that same day, and nothing came of it that I know of. But anyhow, I got to give a little testimony there. But the other guys, I don't remember the monk saying much of anything that I thought was that interesting or anything, but the Navy guy, now he was serious. And he was all down on popular Buddhism, or kind of on Thai people in general. I mean, he was speaking tough, you know, and he said, one thing I remember, he gave this saying. He said, Ya Grua Jean, Lek Grua Farang, Satang Grua Thai. I just about cracked up right up there. You know, the weeds feared the Chinese because they were such good, hard-working gardeners, you know. And the metal feared the foreigners because the foreigners made stuff out of metal that was, you know, the cars and things. Well, the Satang, you know, the coins feared the Thai because they could spend them so fast and easy. So, you know, he was I enjoyed listening to him. I mean, he had some things to share. I don't remember much else about it, but I always remember that. And then when he said that, I thought about Jerry Hobbs saying, he said that Thai people have three religions. They have Satang, Sanuk, Surah. Money, fun, and whiskey. Well, anyhow, after that, was about when we had to go to the States, like I've told you about already. But I was reminding Bob about this. We were getting ready to go on this medical furlough. Was kind of a rushed up thing, and we didn't really try to take time to pack as much stuff as we sometimes did. We just put some in a kind of a small trunk and let them ship it by airmail. And when we got out to the airport with it that day, I thought we had plenty of time, but I had to haul it off to another building a ways away and go through some red tape, but we got that going, and finally I got back to the main waiting room, and we started to go through the barrier, we had to go through when passengers got off to themselves. And I wasn't thinking about it, but I happened to turn, and there was my friend Ajahn Khan way over in the back corner of that big room. But he was tall enough that his head and face showed up, and I think I did turn fast enough to give him I think I waved at him. I didn't why him because, I didn't want him thinking I thought he was God or divine or something, but I did wave at him, and I hope he saw me. I don't know. It was kind of a last-minute thing there. Well, I didn't see anything of him because when we came back, went right off to the hospital to work. But I had a chance to see him again about a year or so later. During our first time at the hospital there before we moved back to Bangkok to help the student center there in the 70s, we had two fellows come from the Radio TV Commission in Dallas to make a movie about Thai people. What it was supposed to be was show the daily life of 4 different Thai people. Well, as it turned out, they got enough material to do 2 movies, but the initial plan was for that. And Ronald was the contact man, and so he asked me, he lined up Ajahn, our very good friend used to be at Chombury, can't think of his name. Anyhow, one of our Thai pastors, and a fellow there in the Thai court that was a musician. So that was 2 of the people, Ajahn Boonkrong. So he asked me if I would line up a Thai farmer and a Buddhist monk. So I said, well, I'll do my best. That was a little bit harder to do, but that was a compliment that he thought I might know somebody like that. So I had a farmer friend that had been with his daughter in the hospital for a long time. The last day of the week was Saturday, and that was our day to go get Ajahn Khan's pictures. He was the Buddhist monk that I was going to talk to. And that was also interesting. It didn't take us 4 days. We got it all done in one morning. But we had to get out there real early because he went out to get his rice, like they did. And he said, now, I'm not going to pose for anything. But he said, if you want to be along with me and take pictures of what I'm doing while I'm doing it, my regular routine, he said, that'll be okay. We got there in time to see him leave the temple, and they started filming him. And the photographer got all excited because he said we had a sun, what would that be called? It was something about the rays of the sun that was so beautiful. Had a name for it, I can't remember, but of course we got there and the sun was in the east and there was a wide open area, so he got those good shots. And we walked along behind Ajahn Khan and through the rice paddies and all. He had long legs and a fast walker, so it was quite a trick. But we got him, and then we got back to the temple, and our the one that was writing it up, he had some good questions for Ajahn Khan about Buddhism, and of course I got to translate for him, and I learned maybe one. I don't know that he said anything additional to what I'd studied before from my teacher in Bangkok, but a lot of it pretty well backed it up, you know. So that was probably about a 3 or 4 hour interview there. But the fellow that was making the note that was going to write it up, he was very impressed and said he got the information that he really needed.